right, yes, I cut off a lot of Amish people. A lot of Amish people do that every day. Here, I'll start off my set by doing this. All right. Here we go.
Is that a painting?
Is it a painting? No, it's metal hanging pieces. It's wind chimes. Does that look like a painting to you? I don't know. All right. Another comic recently asked me why I always wear black on stage. And I told him, well, it's because I sweat a lot. And if I wear white, you can see my nipples. I've since realized if you're fat enough and you want to show off your nipples, black works too. So I don't know what I'm doing up here, you guys. I don't know why I wear black. Well, the other night I was lying in bed, topless, as I was scrolling through social media. The phone slipped out of my hands and onto my naked chest, which simultaneously caused my nipple to like the post of a person I hated. When it happened, I thought, oh God, I can't tell this to anyone. So I wrote it down and told it to you guys. It's right, back-to-back nipple jokes. That's how I'm going to start this off. Because you gotta have two nipple jokes. You can't tell one because everybody's got two nipples. And unless you've had a mastectomy, then you should only laugh at one of those jokes. Unless you've had or if you've had a double mastectomy, you should laugh at both. All right, see what I did there? So I'm from Lancaster. I'm from Lancaster, Pennsylvania. I live in a decent neighborhood. I would say it's a great neighborhood, but a couple months ago, a man was shot in my backyard. So now it's just decent. It's a true story. You can look it up. There's a home invasion in Lancaster, and I still haven't left because I live on the edge, apparently. Hey, one of my neighbors, she's been having this problem with dogs shitting in her flower bed. So now to prevent dogs from shitting in her flower bed, she set up a statue of a dog shitting in her flower bed. It's got words on it. It says clean up after yourself. The first problem with this is dogs can't read. Second problem with this, if a dog sees that, he's going to think she likes dogs shitting in her flower bed so much. She set up a monument. They got to go pay their respects. Yeah, it means they're going to shit in the flower bed, you guys. If you didn't catch that. I've been getting fatter. So I've been trying to cut back. I was recently reading in an article that apparently the amount of carbs in one beer is equivalent to eating 7 slices of bread. And I drink enough beer for that to be very unsettling. So I've stopped eating bread. Now I have nothing to compare it to, and I'm healthier than I've ever been. In conversation recently, I was talking to a friend where I mentioned that I started smoking cigarettes. My friend goes, oh, come on, Kyle, you're better than that. So I didn't know what to say. So I just go, I only smoke like 1 or 2 a week. He goes, packs? And I go, no, just 2 cigarettes. And then he called me a pussy. And the other night I had a nosebleed and I stopped it up with toilet paper and forgot about it. Later that night I went outside to smoke a cigarette and I flicked the lighter and my nose caught fire. So cigarettes must be for me because I am not better than that. Here's something I've been thinking about recently. Let me get this straight. Out of all of the animals, we can't reproduce with any of them. How do we know that? How do we know that? Do we just assume? Is that the science behind it? I mean, if you think about it, unless we find out there's a lab somewhere with a bunch of guys jerking off on jellyfish, we don't know. Now, I know that joke comes across as a little crass, so I've been thinking about changing around some of the words to soften the blow. Here it goes. Out of all of the plants, we can't reproduce with any of them. How do we know that? How do we know that? Do we just assume? Is that the science behind it? I mean, if you think about it, unless we find out there's a lab somewhere with a bunch of guys jerking off on dandelions, we don't know. Now, I realize I didn't change much about that joke. So don't worry, I do have another version. Out of all of the fungi, we can't I'm not gonna go there, that's disgusting. What am I gonna fuck a mushroom? With a mushroom? Isn't that a little gay? If, believe it or not, that joke is pro-gay. I was booed for that joke before. So it's pro-gay and it's not necessarily pro-bestiality. Not necessarily. Over the weekend, I was at a thrift store. As I was digging through stuff, I heard one of the customers talking to the cashier. She goes, "Hey, did you hear what Walmart's doing? They're raising their gun buying age to 21. And I could tell she was really pissed about this, because then she goes, "I mean, if we have to bake cakes for gays, Walmart shouldn't have to raise their gun buying age to 21. That was a real sentence that I heard. There's a lot going on in that sentence. First of all, she's accepted that gays are a part of society, and she's baking cakes for them. Just baking cakes for gays. And she's fine with that, as long as kids can buy guns at Walmart. So she's just baking cakes for gays. And by the way, she didn't specify they're for gay weddings, just gays. She's just baking cakes for gays. So as she's baking cakes for gays in this gay cake bakery, it's as if she's also simultaneously the human embodiment of Walmart. So as she's baking cakes for gays, somebody comes over to her, whispers into her ear, "Hey, you gotta raise that gun buying age to 21. She goes, "I can't do that, I'm too busy baking cakes for gays." So if you can take anything from my set, you guys, just bake cakes for gays. Bake cakes for gays. All right. Hey, I don't get high regularly, but this past weekend, one of my friends got me to do a dab. And as I was riding out the wave of that high, I noticed there were a lot of cats around. There were a lot of cats. There was a suspicious amount of cats. Like there was nothing, and then puff puff cats everywhere. So as I was riding out the wave of that high, I was petting one of the cats. It occurred to me, I realized no one will ever pet me that way. No one's hand to me ratio would ever match my hand to cat ratio. Just gotta think of how big someone's hand would have to be to grab me by the scruff of my neck and caress my excessive back hair. Hey, I don't have a lot of opinions on what weapons average people should carry. All I know is if you want to legally carry pepper spray, you have to get sprayed with pepper spray. If you want to legally carry a taser, you have to get tased with a taser. Which is why if you want to carry a gun, I think you should have to get shot. What are we just going to drop those ethics with more danger? Why stop at guns? You know, if some guy wants to bomb a city, he should have to try it out on himself first. Maybe then at least he'd think twice. Now, personally, I don't believe in owning a gun. I don't care what anybody else does or believes, but I still want to try to protect myself if somebody breaks into my home. So I was thinking maybe I could just make the sound of a rifle loading using household objects. Just scare them off. I was thinking probably what would happen, though, is the one night the burglar does finally break in, I hear him, I sneak down to the kitchen to make that gun sound. Burglar walks into the kitchen, catches me in the act. He has a real gun. And all I've got is a toaster full of quarters. Then that I realized I should have used the blender. Would have thought I had a chainsaw. I've been noticing there've been a lot of options and experiments put in place to protect students from school shootings. That's right, it's one of those jokes. There've been metal detectors, gun safety assemblies, arming teachers, clear backpacks, and even buckets of stones placed in every classroom, which, if there's anything a school shooter deserves, it's a good old-fashioned stoning, I guess. But I've noticed one thing they haven't tried is AED heart monitor machines. Hear me out. If you don't know, you start at a job or a new school, they explain to you it's that box on the wall with a picture of a heart and a flashing light. They tell you should only use this to save someone's life if you're trained to use it. Because if you're not trained to use it, you could do serious damage to another human being. So I guess my option to protect students from school shootings is intentionally don't train any of your students how to use AED heart monitor machines. It would have to be combined with all the other options put in place. So here goes. School shooter shows up to the school, For what else but to shoot up a school? Makes it through. He makes it through the metal detector because he has one of those bone guns from Cronenberg's Existence. He's wearing a clear backpack full of ammo. But the hall monitors can't tell the difference between a psycho and just some weird teenager with a backpack full of teeth. He makes it to the classroom. His teacher scolds him for his sexually explicit game pod. Pulls out his bone gun. Some nerd in the front row gets all the movie references and spills that bucket of stones all over the floor. Just then, an empathetic student on the other side of the classroom realizes she doesn't want the school shooter to get his wish, which was that someone would die that day. So she grabs the AED heart monitor machine off the wall. She runs over to him, tries to revive him, and because she's intentionally untrained, he dies. That way, through a series of reverse altruistic Home Alone-esque happenings, no one intentionally hurts another person, and it's solved. But that's probably too complicated and probably won't work. It's a little too specific, and you have to get Cronenberg references. So if that doesn't work, maybe just put a guy with a gun in the corner of every room with a badge that just says "School, School, Shooter, Shooter." That one's slow burn at the end of that one. Right. It was. Let's see. I was raised pretty religious, and this one thing has always bothered me since leaving religion is how do you tell the difference between a cult and not a cult? Because if a guy in a cult says it's not a cult, that's a good sign. It's a cult. But by that logic, everything is a cult because the only other response is yeah, it's a cult, which means that's also a cult. But I've discovered this works the same way with addiction. As if an addict says, I'm not an addict, that's a good sign. He's an addict. But by that logic, everyone is an addict. Because the only other response is, yeah, I'm an addict. So if there's one thing I know for sure is it would be literally impossible to diagnose a guy with being addicted to cults. Or everyone is. And what am I even talking about up here? Let's see. All right. I guess I'll end on this one, right? Right? Is that it? Is that it? No? What? Yeah. All right. I'll finish with this one here. You guys know what furries are? Yeah. You ever wonder how furries rate each other on attractiveness? Think a 10 is just a real animal? All right, thanks. I'm Kyle Neff.